Can you send me? I got something.
11U.
Well, then we
Loving
won't.
you.
We don't do it.
It's a
at-
We saved you the front row.
Good evening. It's 5:30 on Wednesday, May 4th. I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education. Ms. Stoikoi, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Coco? Mr. Gomez?
Here.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Ms. Schaefer? Here. Ms. White?
Here. Ms. Coco asked that I note why she's not here tonight. Before she's a school board member, she's a mom, and her youngest is at Richardson. They have their musical performance tonight, so she wants it to be known that she's still doing Cuyahoga Falls schoolwork, but she needed to be a mom tonight. Item B, number 1, motion to approve the agenda. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the agenda of the May 4th, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting. Action by the Board of Education and adoption of a consent agenda means that all items are adopted by one singular motion unless a member of the Board of Education, treasurer, or superintendent requests that any such item be removed from the consent agenda and voted upon separately.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mr. Schaefer? Aye. Ms. White?
Aye.
Welcome. It's nice to see so many smiling faces tonight. Our vision, Cuyahoga Falls City Schools, the hub of our community, committed to a culture of caring. We innovate, we create, we personalize education for all. Our mission, every student, every day, every opportunity. I want to note that if you've been in this room before, you probably noticed that it's a little different tonight. So they're having the furniture fair as we're looking at possible furniture that will be in our new 612 campus. And then Scott and Rhonda, if you'll wave, from TDA are here. So when we have our break after our presentations, if you want to ask them any questions about that, please feel free to do so. That's what they're here for. And we also, while the community is here, we want to, on behalf of the board and the district, thank you for your support of our levy yesterday. We don't take your support for granted, and we're very, very grateful to have that renewal. So thank you. Item 2, informational items. This meeting is a meeting of the Cuyahoga Falls Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not a public community meeting, although there are opportunities for public participation. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic found on the meeting agenda, the individual must complete a registration form found inside the attendance notebook and present it to the treasurer. Following the introduction of the topic by the board president, followed by board discussion, the individual will be recognized. If an individual wishes to address the board regarding a topic not found on the meeting agenda, they must notify the superintendent and/or board president of the topic no later than 3 business days in advance of the meeting. These individuals may share their comments during the board business portion of the agenda. In both cases, comments will include the name and address of the individual and be limited to 3 minutes. In addition, in public session, the board will not hear complaints about school personnel nor against any person connected with the school system. An unabridged board agenda for this meeting can be found on your electronic device at the address shown on the screen, and for your convenience, we have hard copies of the board agenda on the librarian's desk. The next regularly scheduled meeting is May 18th, 2022, here at the Cuyahoga Falls High School Library at 5:30 p.m. There's a Finance Committee meeting scheduled for May 12th, 2022 at 9 a.m. at the Board of Education Meeting Room, and a 612 construction meeting is scheduled for May 19th, 2022 here in the library at 6 p.m. Now for our Pledge of Allegiance and positive reflection, Mr. Harris.
Please stand for a pledge if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. You're holding a cup of coffee when someone comes along and bumps into you, making you spill your coffee everywhere. Why did you spill your coffee? You spilled the coffee because there was coffee in your cup. Had there been tea in your cup, you would have spilled tea. The point is, whatever's inside the cup is what will spill out. Therefore, when life comes along and shakes you, which it will, whatever's inside you will come out. It is easy to fake it until you get rattled. So we have to ask ourselves, what's in my cup? When life gets tough, what spills out? Joy, gratefulness, peace, and humility? Or does anger, bitterness, hard words, and reactions come out? You choose. Today, let's work towards filling our cups with gratitude, forgiveness, joy, words of affirmation, kindness, gentleness, and love for others.
Thank you. Now, on to item D, our presentations. Up first is our Friend of Education Award, and Mr. Shabady, please.
Thank you. Today, we would like to honor Frederick Brown. Is Frederick here tonight? Come on up here, Frederick. Frederick is currently a senior at Cuyahoga Falls High School and was previously a student at Preston Elementary School. He contacted me prior to COVID about wanting to create and build something for Preston to complete his requirements for his Eagle Scout. Mrs. Brown, you want to come on up here? I'd love to. Yep. Mrs. Brown is the principal at Preston. Mrs. Brown was thrilled to have someone so young already having the heart of giving back to the school district. Frederick and Mrs. Brown discussed many options for what were potential projects. They decided upon something to help with the safety and health of those who enter Preston Elementary School. He created and built 4 sanitation stations. They are amazing and are utilized each and every day. Mrs. Brown, you want to say anything?
So this young man reached out to me around spring, summer of 2020, when our world came to a pause, and I get this wonderful young man that emails me because he wants to do something for the school that he went to. And So it took us some time because there was things like COVID and everything was flipped upside down. But then he wanted to make it something meaningful that would also be helpful and work to keep everybody healthy. So as you came in, I'm sure you saw one, I carried it over, and he made 4. So they're at all of our entrances, and I watch them get used every day. And I just think it's amazing that someone so young is already so ready to give back to where they came from. And if that's not Black Tiger Pride, I don't know what is. So my staff earned a special COVID shirt when we all came back, and I brought Frederick one. So you have your own Preston strong shirt now. Don't tell everyone. Oh, I guess I just did. But I appreciate it. The staff, the kids love it every day, and I can't thank you enough. And keep doing great things, just like you are. And tonight, he's got to rush out. I asked if he could be first because he goes to be put up for his Eagle Scout. So.
Frederick, we have a certificate of commendation for you for all your hard work and dedication to the school district, and also a Black Tiger Pride pen. So congratulations and thank you.
We have a flower. And a flower. Gets a flower too. Everybody gets a flower.
You get a flower.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
Good luck. Our second presentation tonight is our staff recognition, our Star Substitute Award, Mrs. McClure and Ms. Whitcomb.
Good evening, everybody. So the unsung heroes for our school district are our substitutes. We have been incredibly fortunate this year to be able to assign a building sub, at least 2, and up to maybe 5 in some of our bigger buildings. Building subs that just reported to one building every day to fill in wherever they were needed. And they did everything from kindergarten to 5th grade to chemistry to gym to parking lot duty to being the secretary. They were our lifesavers this year. So we really wanted to recognize them. And it wasn't just our substitutes that covered in our buildings. We had people who served in long-term sub positions for bus drivers and custodians and secretaries, and so we really just can't thank them enough. So I want to introduce, this is my assistant Peggy Whitcomb, who's going to kind of help me with these presentations. So when I call your name, if you would please come forward and see Peggy, and she has an award for you and a flower, of course. So first up is Kara Austin Aaronson from Bolick. She was unable to be with us tonight. I have some folks that let us know they weren't able to be here. Tony Petrasco, also at Bolick. I don't think he was able to make it either. Brian Klauv from Bolick. Andrew Albright was a long-term sub at the high school. Evan Cool, I know, is here. Come on up, Evan. Thank you so much. Evan has been a lifesaver for us over the years, so we certainly appreciate everything you have done for us. And he's a Cuyahoga Falls grad. Important to know. John Conricode, come on up, John. I saw him sitting there earlier. He was also at the high school this year. John is truly a person who does not know the word no. He will, anything we needed him to do, we appreciate. So thank you so much, John. We appreciate it. Also at the high school were Jackie Miller and Julie McBee. They were unable to be with us today. One of the most important subs we had this year is Pam Qualls. Pam, come on up. I know I saw her walk in. For those of you who ever made a phone call to the office or walked into the office, Pam was our head building secretary for the entire year. So we certainly appreciate everything she has done for us. Also at the high school was Jody Draymond, Matt Zakelli. Go ahead. Noah Scott and Jennifer Lowry. All of those folks served in long-term or building sub-positions. If they weren't able to join us today, we'll be making sure that their awards get delivered to their buildings tomorrow. At DeWitt School, Bernie Gaffney. I know I saw Bernie, come on up. Bernie was a kindergarten teacher for us this year. We certainly appreciate that. Amanda Smith. Thought I saw Amanda come in. No, didn't see her. Oh, there she is. Amanda was 3rd grade, and then you were everything, lots of things. So, Julie Geistwhite was a building sub at DeWitt. There she is. Thank you so much, Julie. We appreciate everything that you've done. Michael McAuliffe was a building sub at DeWitt. There he is. Thank you so much, Michael. Laura Coletta was also a building sub at DeWitt. I don't believe she's with us, was able to join us tonight. At Lincoln, Julie Creel, I know she was not able to be here. Nicola Smith was one of our building subs. Is she here? No. Kim Applegarth was not able to join us. She was at Lincoln. Laura Cupper is also a false grad, recently was a building sub at Lincoln. Karen Steitley and Sarah Mayer. I don't believe any of those folks were able to join us tonight. We'll make sure their things get delivered to Lincoln. At Preston, Leanne Kitts. Thank you so much, Leanne. At Richardson, Rebecca Lukatich was in a long-term position. I know she's here. I saw her. Just a little side note, Rebecca was recently hired to be a full-time staff member in Cuyahoga Falls. We're so excited to have her. Also at Richardson, Adam Tharp. And Mr. Price. Hi, thank you so much, Adam. One more building sub at Richardson who was not able to join us, Laura Quinones. Sorry, I pronounced that wrong. At Price, a couple building subs, Ty Linder. I know Ty's here. I saw him come in. Thank you. Thanks so much, Ty. We appreciate it. Elizabeth Wood was also at Price. So much, Elizabeth. We appreciate it. Finally, at Price was Katie Thomas. She was with us all year. Thanks so much, Katie. So, at Roberts, I know some of these folks weren't able to join us. Debbie Hackbarth was a secretary there for a good portion of the year. Heath Weber was a building teacher sub. William Raukhorst was also a long-term sub, building sub. Oh, William's here. Oh, great. Thank you. Also at Roberts, Christina Costello did a lot of long-term work for us there. Thanks so much, Richard. At Silver Lake, Stephanie Lindenberg, and I know she wasn't able to join us, and Amir Greenwood, and I don't think he was able to come either. But once again, from all of us in Cuyahoga Falls, we just can't say how much appreciation we have for our people that saved us every day. I know that our principals just, every day they were like, I'm so thankful for building subs. That is something, if anything good is coming from COVID, that is definitely a good thing that will continue for our district. So once again, thank you so much.
And our next presentation is our Top Tigers recognition with Mr. Shabity. And if you're here for a Top Tiger, we do still have some seats in the front if you'd like. And you'll get really good pictures of your Top Tiger too if you want. So feel free.
Well, good evening, and again, thank you for being here. And again, thanks to the subs. This has been a rough couple years, as all of you know, and we greatly appreciate their efforts there. This is a very fun part of the board meeting when we get to recognize some of our top students. And you should be very proud of yourselves. Of all the students in your building, you're here tonight. That's pretty impressive. So before we recognize them, I'd like to introduce Mr. Gary Metcalf. He's the Executive Director of the Cuyahoga Falls Alumni Association and the school's foundation. He's going to tell you a little bit about this program and how it got started and some of our sponsors. So, Mr. Metcalf, also Cuyahoga Falls graduate.
Thank you very much. Congratulations to all the top Tigers, the substitutes, and the gentleman that was up here. What was his name?
Frederick.
Thank you for all your work. We'd like to thank the top Tiger sponsors, Donato's Pizza, Dietz's Florist, Young Screen Printing, for all that they do for the foundation. Foundation has done many things in the past few years. One of them, they helped with the Tiger Trail, the new entrance to Clifford Stadium. They help with class reunions, all class reunions. We honor distinguished alumni every year. We provide teacher grants. In the last 7 years, we've provided over $35,000 in teacher grants. In another week, we'll be giving away 15 teacher grants, $500 apiece. We provide scholarships for graduating seniors. In the past 7 years, we've awarded over $1 million worth of scholarships. And next week, we'll be awarding 45 scholarships to our graduating seniors. And last but not least, all the top Tigers will get this beautiful t-shirt tonight. See me in the cafeteria right afterwards. And you can wear this on Memorial Day. We'll be marching in the parade again this year. And you'll be getting more information at your school in the next couple weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Metcalf. I'm going to call the students up one at a time. When I call your name, if you'd come stand up here, and Dr. Cruz, if you would help me pass out a couple of nice gifts for the students and a flower. All right, yeah, okay. All right, first of all, from DeWitt Elementary School, Veronica Maslow. Is Veronica here? Come on up here, Veronica. Veronica is an excellent behavior role model at DeWitt. She tries her best and always completes her work. She is a sweet girl that is well liked by her peers. Veronica displays Black Tiger pride on a daily basis. The fourth grade team is very proud of Veronica and the excellent choices she has made throughout the year. We are honored to have Veronica as our DeWitt top Tiger. Congratulations, Veronica. Also at DeWitt Elementary School, Giassi Evans. Did I say that right, Giassi? Giassi is kind and helpful. He is our resident technology expert and can fix all my classroom technologies. Mr. Hutch, you can hire him for the summer work thing. He is our resident technology expert, can fix all my classroom technology issues. Giassi had the absolute best infectious giggle, which brightens my toughest of days. Can we hear it one time? No. As he has progressed through fifth grade, he has shown more maturity and increased effort, even in his most challenging subjects. I am very proud of Giassi and believe he is truly a top Tiger. Congratulations. From Lincoln Elementary School, Jamila Jaber. Jamila here? Not here. We'll make sure they get their award tomorrow. Also from Lincoln Elementary School, Ejwal Lutel. Is Ejwal here? Nope. Okay, we'll make sure they get their award. From Preston Elementary School, Kavion Crowsleck Brown. Kavion is a terrific student who is a wonderful example of a top Tiger. I've worked with Kavion for 3 years and have seen tremendous growth in his academics. He wears a gigantic smile every morning that just brightens everyone's day. He works hard on his schoolwork and never gives up. He is honest and dependable with great manners. Kavion is a shining example of a top Tiger, and it has been my pleasure to be his teacher, and that's from Mrs. Chaffee. So congratulations, Kavion. Good job. Also from Preston, but he's sick tonight, is Hussein Hikmat, and we'll make sure that he gets his award. At Price Elementary School, Angel Puel. Angel here? I know she's here. I met her earlier. Angel is one of our kindest, boy, isn't it neat to hear that word all the time? Every one of our students, kind, nice, smile. It's just awesome to hear. Angel is one of our kindest and hardest working students. She is serious about her work and never gives up. In 4th grade, something magical happened in math class, and she became incredibly engaged and confident as a math student. From that point on, Angel has become an unstoppable force. We were curious to whether the amazing Angel phase might be passing fad, but as she entered 5th grade this year, she has just continued to grow more and more in all her academic areas, as well as her confidence. As a 5th grader, Angel has stepped up as a building leader. She has acted as a recess guide as well as a cafeteria guide with our kindergarten students. While these students are learning to follow our Black Tiger pride, Angel has complete mastery of expectations and patiently helps guide our youngest learners to follow our school rules. I have no doubt that Angel will accomplish great things in her life. Congratulations. From Price Elementary School, Jake Wagner. Jake here? Come on, Jake. Jake has been a tremendous leader this school year and has taken on many extra responsibilities. As a 5th grade helper, Jake started off as a table cleaner, where he did such a great job that he became the leader of that job and trained others to clean the way he did. Jake then became a cafeteria guide and a recess guide. He has natural ability to connect and guide our little ones in making good decisions and modeling appropriate behaviors. Jake also joined the Price Pride Builders Club this year. Jake is a very hard worker who wants to show his best work. With his work ethic and the support of his parents and teachers, Jake has shown tremendous growth this year. Jake began the year with some challenges when it came to reading, but he never let that stop him. Jake is always willing to push himself to do his best because he takes responsibility for his learning. Jake is a shining example of perseverance and growth. Over the course of his time at Price Elementary, he has developed into the true portrait of a Cuyahoga Falls Black Tiger. Congratulations. From Richardson Elementary School, I don't know, maybe she's singing tonight. Is Lily Barrett here tonight? Lily, you here? Oh, there she is. Lily is a phenomenal learner that always shows Black Tiger pride. Her kindness, hard work, compassion, and drive does not go unnoticed. Lily welcomes anyone she meets with a smile and a helping hand. She has continued to grow in all areas throughout the year. I am so proud, Ms. Lukatich says of you, Lily, that she has gotten a chance to watch you grow and cannot wait to see all of your future accomplishments. Congratulations. Also from Richardson Elementary School, Rocco Considine. Rocco, come on up. Rocco has been a model 1st grader all year and comes to school showing Black Tiger pride every day. Rocco is courteous and shows good manners in the classroom. We often talk about being our best self, and I see that Rocco works hard to make good choices and help others around him do the same. Rocco enjoys learning about math, and I enjoy watching him help others and listening to him explain how to solve his problems. That's from Mrs. Mishler. You know her? Yeah. On the first day of school, Rocco brought me cookies that said, "Good luck" this year. And he already knows how to play the game, Rocco. I like that. And he has definitely helped make this a great school year for all at Richardson Elementary School. Congratulations, Rocco. From Silver Lake Elementary School, Sophia Kearns. Is Sophia here? Come on up, Sophia. Mrs. Pellegre said she selected you, Sophia, as your top tiger this year because ever since the beginning of the year, you have portrayed all the characteristics of a black tiger. Sophia takes responsibility to do her classwork and homework well and to turn it in. Also, she takes responsibility for her learning by being a great listener to her teacher and her peers. Sophia is always willing to learn more and go beyond the expectations of first grade. In fact, she is already well beyond the reading level goals for the end of the first grade. She is always respectful to her teachers and works hard to be a good friend to her classmates. Not everyone sees eye to eye, and Sophia has learned to understand others' uniqueness and to be kind. Sophia always practices safety in the classroom, halls, and the entire building. Being safe for herself and others has never been an issue for Sophia. Furthermore, Sophia has many outside activities that she's involved in. She takes ballet, jazz, baton lessons, gymnastics, and art classes, all the while keeping up with her school responsibilities. Sophia is a very spunky, outgoing leader that captures the attention of anyone who meets her. I would bet my life that she will be a very successful adult as well. Congratulations, Sophia. Also from Silver Lake Elementary School, Zulay Mohammed. Zulay arrived at Silver Lake in October 2021 after leaving Afghanistan and settling in this area with her family. She had been through what must have been a very difficult experience and had to start a new school, learning and communicating in a language and culture that was new for her. In the few short months she has been here, she has shown some pretty amazing growth and resilience. She is now able to communicate with her friends and teachers in English and continues to grow in her ability to complete her work and learn. She has an infectious smile that always makes me happy when I see it. Though some days are still a struggle, she still has ways to go. She inspires me and the other students every day. Congratulations. Okay, at this time, top tigers and your parents are welcome to leave, unless you want to hear this guy over here talk for a couple hours about, what are you talking about today? Heating valves or something, I think. So, but stop over to the cafeteria, get your T-shirt, and talk your parents into getting you some ice cream on the way home. See ya.
Congratulations. Nice job. Have a good night. Go get ice cream. That's right.
I know I'm kind of disappointed. I'm gonna liven it up.
What's that? I know. She was like, I might come. I know. She's not working tonight, so.
You can sit down.
God, there's a comfy seat. That's a really good one there. That one on the end.
We gotta do our graduate first.
Desk chairs there, office room.
No, you're fine.
Well, I'll pass these out. Let everyone get
I just didn't want you to be like standing there and then me say it and then you feel awkward. Yes, yes. I was trying to avoid the awkward for you.
Thank you so much.
Ready for number 4, which is a graduate. It's recommended that the Board of Education grant a Cuyahoga Falls High School diploma to the following individual who has now completed requirements stated by the state of Ohio for high school graduation. William Claude Fast.
So moved.
Any discussion? I believe this person, no, not through.
He is not attending tonight. We're in the
No.
transition period between diplomas.
But didn't they go through the Graduation Alliance? That's what I wanted to say.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
this
No,
is our,
they
no,
did, they went through the 22 plus.
the
program,
22 plus, okay.
Which is related, but
Related,
it's not
okay.
exactly the same.
Thank you. Well, congratulations to him. Please call the roll.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Thank you. Number 5 is 612 Literacy Curriculum Adoption. Dr. Cruz and Mrs. Dudowns.
So we have two parts to our presentation. We are so excited to just update you on the process and give you a little bit of information there. But then also we have, joining us live are some representatives from HMH who will be able to highlight some of the work. We are not salespeople, although we like to sell things to make sure we get good things for our kids, but we thought we'd let the experts really highlight some of the key features of it. Okay, there we go.
Hello, Julie, can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Oh, hello, welcome, and thank you for this opportunity to join you this evening. I am Maria Johnson, I'm the rep from Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, and I just wanted to tell you that, as a rep who works with a lot of districts, I just saw a very thoughtful consideration and investigation of ELA programs from Cuyahoga Falls, and I was impressed. They really looked at the program and considered it and tried it out and asked very thoughtful questions, and I think their inquisition really led to them picking the best program. I'm a little biased, but so we're very pleased to be here with you. And Ryan, who's also a former high school teacher and English teacher, is here tonight to let you see the highlights of the program from HMH into literature.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks, board members, educators, community members, for being with us tonight. We know that you've had a long and busy day, and we are just really grateful, as Maria said, for the opportunity to share a little bit about the full ELA experience that your team will have access to with Into Literature and all of our great resources. So again, thanks for this window. And Into Literature as a core resource really fits into HMH's, what we call our connected teaching and learning ecosystem. So what your team is considering, what they're really looking into, is trying to figure out how to incorporate all of these tools into the instruction of the ELA classes from grades 7 through 12. And so Into Literature as a core resource is a part of that. But there's so many other things too. There's assessments like our growth measure, writing tools like our Writeable resource, our independent practice tool called Wagner, and then how we would come alongside your teachers with professional learning to make sure that they had everything that they needed to implement the program with success and fidelity. And we know that's something that they want to do and that they want to do effectively for all the students and all the community members in your community. So we just, of course, want to support them all the way. The other great thing about Into Literature and our HMH resources is that it works with your existing tools. So we know that you're already using Google Classroom, so this is something that we can integrate into, which again will make the flow of this very, very simple and easy for both teachers and students. And this is also real evidence of us at HMH and our continuous development model. So we're not going to just ship you a bunch of books and digital resources and say, this is done now. This is going to continually be evolving. So right now, your students can use our content in Google Classroom, and we have some exciting updates for back to school, where we're going to be building even deeper integrations with this tool that everyone's been successful with too. So again, that's just our commitment to make sure that whatever features and pieces of the program your community is leveraging, you're going to have the most up-to-date things to support everyone. So from kind of just an ecosystem view, so your students and your teachers could potentially use one of the tools embedded into literature called the growth measure. So the growth measure is an adaptive assessment. It's given 3 times a year, once at the beginning, once at the middle, once at the end. So the idea is we take some data measurements at points when it's really critical. So at the beginning of the year, what is it that we need to know? Where are our students currently, and how do we respond to that? At the middle of the year, what do we need to do to course correct, get everybody where they need to be, and then obviously at the end of the year, measuring growth over time and making sure that everyone's getting to where they need to be. So this gives all sorts of really great data. Your teachers will be able to track what's happening with students. Are they on level? Are they approaching? Are they meeting targets? So again, this is something that every one of your classroom teachers will have access to. That pulls data from 2 domains for ELA, so you'll be able to track reading comprehension and language growth. You know, obviously, 2 of the biggest components for that. And again, all kinds of great data to support you and to support your teachers as they move into instruction, including not only our metrics like Lexile levels and things like that, but also how well are your students tracking under Ohio learning standards. So teachers are going to have that information right at their fingertips as well through that growth measure. So if we think about kind of using that as the anchor as we move through the rest of the resources, we would obviously start in that core classroom experience. So what is the book or the resource that they have? That is that Into Literature student edition. So there's so much great content in Into Literature. As Julie will attest to, I can talk about this for a long time. So just going to highlight a few of the really great things that we have. So of course, your students are going to have a full digital edition. They will also have access to print resources. So these are consumable texts that they would write in every year. They would make them their own. Students would get new copies every year. Teachers are going to have high quality print and digital support resources. And of course, you can add on full length or novel length text this as well too. So we want students to read those full length works to develop the capacity to grapple with complicated text over time and flesh that out. And we have a great tool in our arsenal as well called the HMH Go app, which allows students to download this content to their devices, even if they don't have the internet at home. So even if your students are leaving school and heading to an unreliable internet location, they're still able to access all that great information. So the way Into Literature is built for all of the grade levels, so every grade level will have 6 units. Those units are organized around a particular topic or a theme, with the exception of grades 11 and 12. So grades 11 focus on American literature, and grade 12 focuses on British literature, while still keeping those broader topics and themes. We launch into units with resources called Spark Your Learning. These are designed to engage students, draw their voices and their experiences into the text. We know if we can personalize it and help the students see themselves as a part of the readings, that can really be a powerful way to engage them and get them interested in what we're talking about in the classroom. From there, we have a couple different sections of the units, one called Analyze and Apply, which is where the bulk of the instruction is done. Teachers are going to really dig into those literary concepts and drive students to those learning goals. And then from there, we start turning our students a bit more independently. So in the next section, we call this Collaborate and Compare. So students are going to rigorously read cross-textually. So read at least 2 texts, dive into those, analyze them, and talk with their classmates about that. And then ultimately, we have a section at the end called Reader's Choice, where students will choose based on their interests or maybe something captivated them within the unit topic. They're able to dive in and dig into those particular readings a bit more. And of course, we have robust and rigorous assessments. So I alluded to that growth measure earlier, but you're going to have unit-based assessments, individual reading assessments, as well as lots of really high-quality writing tasks, performance tasks, project ideas as well too. The really great thing about Into Literature and all of these HMH resources is that this is not teach by numbers. Your teachers are experts. They need tools to be able to craft curriculum in a way that makes sense. And we have a very flexible model that provides enough structure to anchor instruction without being overbearing. Because we know every community is unique, and every school and every classroom needs to have a strong foundation, but teachers need flexibility within that. So we provide a very flexible instructional model that is teacher-driven, educator-driven, to make sure that teachers are making the strategic choices about what it is that they need when they need it. I mentioned a little bit about the potential for novels. So this is another area where We all get excited if we were English teachers at any point in time, teaching some of our favorite books, as well as adding new books. So the team is considering adding some novels to their into literature adoption as well. So you can choose from our list of over 700 novels. Within each one of the units, we make some suggestions about where those novels might fit with the instruction. One of the things we hear from teachers over and over again is that they're spending a lot of time developing resources on their own. That's extremely time consuming. My wife is currently teaching an an English learner class for Afghan refugees in our community. And they don't have a curriculum, and for a 1 hour lesson, she spends almost 4 hours Googling and finding resources. So obviously we want teachers to have everything they need so that they can use that time to focus on their students. So if they use the novels that are suggested with our units, we provide rich, easy to use novel study guides that give them everything they need and link back to those particular unit topics or themes. Into literature is really strong in the area of closely and carefully reading texts. Now, by the time students get to middle and high school, we know that we're much more doing the reading to learn. We're focused on analysis. We're focused on those literary elements. So we have worked with Drs. Tylen Beers and Bob Schroetz, and their notice and note reading pedagogy. This is the gold standard in close reading. And that is just built right into the program. So students will be able to leverage a reading tool that they call the Notice and Note signposts. Again, that's just built right in. Students will come to grapple with these concepts, noticing the signs that writers leave behind, and then learning how to ask questions and thoughtfully and carefully read those texts. And again, that's just built right into the student play. So I want to talk a little bit about differentiation. Before I do that, I just want to change directions really quickly and just give you a brief insight into what this would look like for your students digitally. So this is our learning system called ED. This is where all of the resources we live. So if I was a student and I was in the 7th grade, I would jump into my learning platform here. As you can see, it's visually appealing. It's easy to use. When I jump into the student edition, this is going to load up for me. I'm able to do all kinds of great things here. So again, I can jump into a particular reading by sliding over here to the table of contents. And if I jump into one of these first short stories, I have all sorts of things that I can do here. So I can highlight, annotate, take my own notes. So as you see, this will come up here, and I'll be able to, as you can observe, I can highlight and annotate. I can have the text read out loud to me, as you see here. Teachers can jump in here and see all of my annotations. But again, these texts are high quality, engaging. The platform is easy to use and very, very helpful for your students. So when they're reading those core materials, they might need a little bit of differentiation or a little bit of support. So within Into Literature, there's all sorts of great tools. So let's just say maybe the content is a little too advanced for me, a little too sophisticated. Well, in that case, I could use something like our summaries and adapted texts. Or maybe I just need to change the process a little bit. Maybe I'm working with a student who's learning English, and I need to take a slightly different approach. The teacher's guide will have resources for that. Maybe this would be an activity that would be better as a small group rather than doing whole class. Again, I'm going to have strategies for that built into my teacher's edition. And maybe I just need to shift activities. Maybe something would be better with a video, or maybe a static visual, like our anchor charts would work here. Again, these are all great tools that are built into the platform that your teachers don't have to spend their free hours trying to figure out. Now, if we take that even further, there is a companion resource, as I mentioned in that first slide into literature, called Wagner. Wagner is a resource that is linked in the same platform that I just showed you. So students log in, it lives under their Connected Solutions section. What Wagner provides is individualized, personalized practice for all of the key concepts within Into Literature. So I can use that growth measure assessment that I took at the beginning, assign that, and then when the data comes back into the system, Waggle will auto-populate and give my students some lessons that they can work on. So teachers have that option. They can also choose to add content to lessons based on what they're doing into literature. So, for example, in this screenshot here, you see if I was looking at a particular into literature lesson, I can jump into that content and have this individuated practice right here as a part of my system. So again, this is a way to deepen instruction and really personalize that individuation that we were talking about earlier. Now, this can fit in that same learning model that I showed you earlier. It's very flexible. We often see people use this at the beginning of the unit. When we establish some of the learning goals, we might assign those to students to work on at their own pace. And the beauty of Waggle is that it adjusts. It will get the students do better. It will get more challenging. And it provides a gamified experience where students go on missions and they try to acquire gems and do sorts of things that are a little more fun and a little more gamified. And then, of course, as they work their way through, there's other points within that where they can continue to add that type of practice. So again, that's just one of the many layers of this in terms of individualizing instruction and providing that guided practice. We also know that students, particularly post-COVID, are struggling with some rudimentary things like grammar, things like usage. Within Into Literature, we have a lot of contextualized grammar that students can do. Within Waggle, as I just showed you, there's more of that. There's an additional resource that your team is considering called our Grammar Handbook. So this is a standalone handbook where students can work through those concepts in companionship with what they're learning into literature, get practice, and consume that as a work text in class. So again, a great way to maybe just build up some of those rudimentary skills that they might get a little bit of a refresh on, particularly after the last couple of years. The last piece that I want to mention to you here is just related finally to the writing component. So obviously students are going to be reading, they're going to be doing the grammar and the vocabulary and individuated practice. Within Into Literature, we want to drive students towards being strong writers. So within the program itself, you're going to see high-level, strong writing instruction. There's going to be mentor texts that guide students, graphic organizers, carefully scaffolded prompts to make sure that students have everything they need to actually write successfully based on what they're learning. We can couple that great instruction Into Literature with our writing platform called Writeable. So Writeable, again, builds on the good work that's already happening there. So this is going to take the lesson flow that we've been looking at as we work through this conversation, and it's going to suggest, hey, when you're working through a particular concept, here's a place where maybe you're doing some analysis questions. Well, if you need some additional scaffolding for those analysis questions, we can provide that for you. Or if you want to have some of the student edition assignments in a space where you can use AI tools to get feedback and alleviate teacher stress. We could all use a little less stress these days. That's one really great tool that you can leverage for that. So Writeable adds all sorts of wonderful layers to the writing process. So things like graphic organizers, customized prompts with scaffolding and sentence stems and things built in to make sure students have everything that they need. It will include things like AI tools. So if a teacher wants to assign content, there's an AI that will read it in light of the rubric that's been assigned and give students feedback in real time. I think of that as a wonderful peer review or kind of a digital peer review. And that's another great strength of Writeable. There's actually an anonymous peer review cycle that's built in so students can have their peers read each other's texts, get really great feedback, and edit all of that without having the pressure of sitting next to someone that you might be worried about impressing or worried about losing their friendship and giving them feedback on their writing. And of course, teachers have a wide variety of ways to do that as well. So the AI works not only with just reading student writing or reading student just general writing and giving them feedback based on the rubric. We have a groundbreaking new tool called Grammar Aid. So Grammar Aid actually reads student writing in real time. It gives them suggestions and lessons, videos, interactives about, hey, you're struggling with a particular concept, maybe passive voice, for example. Here's a quick video on how do you change your passive verbs to active verbs. Again, teachers are spending hours sitting at computers, sitting at kitchen tables, trying to figure out how do I guide students through the minutia of some of this grammar work within writing. We know it's important, but we can leverage those great AI tools here to make that happen. And of course, one of the real powers of this is that we're able to benchmark growth and track it over time. So from your perspective at a district level, you can start looking at, hey, let's run a report and compare. If we're going to maybe do an argumentative writing assignment in the fall, let's push that out. And then how do we do in the spring? Have we made growth over time? So you have some data tools to be able to track that. You can also, if you get more data as a part of the system, have some recommendations. So maybe, hey, we're noticing that Ryan is really struggling with these particular concepts. Here's some assignments that you may want to do to practice perhaps argumentative writing or informational writing, whatever that may be. So again, Writeable layers onto that and provide you with some really great tools. And of course, Maria is not going to just ship you all this stuff and say best of luck. This includes a full suite of professional learning. So we want to walk with your teachers to make sure that they're implementing this with fidelity. Within our platform, we have a great resource called Teachers Corner, which gives on-demand professional learning, so teachers can access this at any point in time. But we, again, will work with you to build a customized professional learning plan to make sure that everything's being met and that your teachers are getting everything they need for a successful implementation. So I know that's a little bit like drinking through a fire hose. It's a lot of information very quickly, but I hope you get a sense of the good work that your committee, under Julie's leadership, has engaged in these past few months of working through vetting resources and finding something that is really powerful and will hopefully really support your teachers here. So I'm going to stop my conversation here and just check in and see if there's any questions or anything else that we can clarify for you all as we bring our conversation to a close.
Any questions for HMH?
Yes, I'll go ahead. I'm also an English teacher, although retired now. But yes, I did teach with key concepts and essential questions, and I'm so happy to see that here. For the 3 times a year test, is that multiple choice or is that writing?
Yeah, so the growth measure is going to be more of the closed type question. So it could be things like multiple choice, dragging and dropping, 2-part questions, but it is a more fixed data point as opposed to a writing piece. That's where that Writeable tool would come in for teachers to kind of measure growth over time in that way related to writing.
Okay.
The growth measure only really measures 2 domains. It measures language use and reading comprehension. So that's essentially the data that you get from that particular assessment.
Okay. And then you have 6 units per year, and again, they're with key concepts. And is the literature that you're using mixed, like, for example, different cultures, different ideas, and so on? And is it fiction and nonfiction in each unit?
Great question. Yeah, so every unit will have fiction and nonfiction. So you have a blend of narrative text, informational texts, as well as rich literary texts. And yes, our editors have worked really hard to make sure that teachers are going to find a blend of contemporary, fresh texts, blended in with classics that teachers know and love, but that really reflect the lived experiences and the lives of the students that are in our classes today. So,
that's great.
That's one of the things we continue to get really positive feedback on, is the table of content. Students have really been resonating with the selections.
Good. And those include novels, correct, for each unit? Or is this basically,
Yeah, so
okay.
we have suggested novels for
Okay.
each unit. So teachers can choose to use those, or, as a former ELA teacher, you may have something already sitting on your shelf, like, hey, this novel would go really well with this particular unit. We make some suggestions there, but of course, it's flexible based on what you and your team decide to do.
And there was, I forget now what my other question was, so if anybody else wants to comment or go ahead.
So you showed us the student online module. Is this a fully online resource, or is there hard copy part of it? I just want to understand what we're getting.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So it's a blend of both. So we have a complete completely digital components. So we have some districts that do this and they never touch a piece of paper. They do it all digitally. We have others that do it primarily in print, and they use the digital as a support, for whole class instruction, and then everywhere in between. So I believe you're considering looking at both the digital and the print, so that you have the flexibility to move back and forth. But you would have very robust print components too. So every student would have a student book. There's the option for the grammar handbook, so that every student has a grammar handbook in their hand. The novel options as well too. Print teachers editions, along with that robust digital experience. So you can take that in whatever direction you all felt was best for the community.
Thank you. This is probably more for you, Mrs. Jones. But when they talk about like adding the novels and the novels, so are we rethinking the different types of novels that, perhaps we've traditionally used? We're rethinking that along with this?
Sure. So one thing that the leadership committee did last Monday is we went through all of the suggested novels, and there are like 3 suggested novels, and then on the side there's even more suggested novels. So we started by just kind of making a list of that, and then we just didn't finish because we had also gone through the rubric and so on and so forth. But our goal is to, like Ryan was saying, kind of get a blend.
Okay.
Some of the things that we're using are great examples, and some of them we know we definitely want to replace. And so we want to make sure we have a good blend, and we want to make sure 6 to 12 that there's a good blend that way too. So we started that work, but we haven't finished it yet.
All right, thank you for that.
I have a question. You had mentioned the HMH Go app that you can use, that you don't need Wi-Fi to use, or you don't have to be online to use it. You can use that independently. Is that something that you would need to download the content before you leave school, so that you would have it at home? Or is it something that's available just without a connection?
Yeah, great question. So it is something, so it's available right now. The app, if you want to preview it, you can look at it, like on the Google Play Store or the iTunes, the Apple Store. It does require you to download the content prior to losing internet access. So it's not like everything preloaded on there. Generally, because student devices vary greatly in terms of storage, like sometimes Chromebooks, for example, don't let you store a lot of content. iPads may do more. So it basically requires the student to download kind of chunks of content onto that app prior to losing the internet connection. So generally, this is something we kind of have to train students to do to make sure, like, hey, if you're going home tonight, quick download that while you're on Wi-Fi at school or wherever. But generally, that's something that they learn relatively quickly, and we've seen students adapt to that pretty well.
Thank you.
How much writing do they do in each unit? I know you said that there was one end of the unit, argumentative or informative writing, but are they writing regularly in class, and are they reading as well in class?
Oh, yeah. So there's a slide to our dashboard here, just to give you a little sense. So you're going to have just a wide variety of readings for every single one of your units. One of the resources that teachers can also leverage is something called our level text library. So that's several hundred additional texts that students can choose, or that teachers can choose by unit. They can choose them by topic area. There's a wide variety of ways that they can add even more readings to a unit if they want. Here in the Writeable system, just to quickly give you a sense, I'm just going to show you again an example from 7th grade. One of the things that you would have within your 7th grade program is, for example, something we call the skills ladder assignments. So you heard me talk about kind of the big end of unit writing tasks. So in this case, if this is to write an informative essay, I'm going to have a series of 7 additional shorter writing tasks that I would do to work at moving towards the necessary skills to write that informational text. So, for example, I've got to have a strong introduction if I'm going to write an informational essay. I've got to be able to have source material that I'm referencing and using to communicate that information. Every one of your units also has a mentor text. So this serves as an example to students. So if I wanted to preview this, students would, on the left-hand side of their screen, have that mentor text. So this is their actual digital student book. It will pop up here, so any of those notes or annotations that they were able to take while they were reading it would live here. And then they would have their writing space off here to the left. And that is gonna have things like rubrics that are connected to it. These are all customizable by the teacher. You can actually even do it too at the district level. So if you have any district level writing initiatives, you say, hey, you want every student in 7th grade writing to this rubric, we can upload those into the system for you as well. And then this is where they would get into the peer review cycle too. So there is a lot of robust writing support to make sure that students are doing that regularly in both short doses as well as longer, more complex writing tasks.
That's good, thank you. And then Julie, I have a question for you. When they spoke, and I know this is usual in other high schools, American Lit is 11th and World Lit or British Lit is 12th. We don't have that. Are we thinking about?
So we have been in discussion about,
Okay, we don't-
because our 9th and
yeah.
10th grade ELA standards in Ohio
They're
are the same,
yeah.
11 and 12 are the same, and they're very different because they scaffold upon one another. So we have been having that discussion about
Okay.
potentially just switching the textbooks based on the student
Okay.
age to match what we have in the program of studies.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
I have one more question too. When I was looking at the space that they would be writing in, it's kind of pertaining to a small portion of the population, but some students do the talk to text due to IEPs and things like that. Is there a way that they can talk to text in the writing?
Yeah, so there is not a native talk to text here. However, because this integrates with Google Classroom, you can create this as an embedded Google Doc, and that then you can leverage the native Google tools to do talk to text. So that's one option. Students also have the ability to submit assignments that are audio or video based. So this actually, let's say I'm a student and my IEP allows me to submit, I don't even have to have talk to text, I can just submit audio or I can record myself speaking like we're doing now. As you see here, you have the ability to do that too. So there's multiple different modes for students to be able to submit a quote unquote writing assignment to the teacher.
Great, thank you.
Anything else for each?
Yeah, I do have a question. First off, this is an amazing site. I could have used this going through school. I had a lot of reading problems, and I'm just looking at this like, wow. So, I just love how personalized this is and the cohesiveness of it. I guess my question is the growth measure. You're tracking students and making sure they're meeting those targets. If they are not, are there recommendations for educators based on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's two ways we can approach this. So first of all, there's going to be the growth measure assignment or assessment filters into what we call a standards report. So it will take data from the assessment that your teachers are doing kind of on a daily, weekly basis, and the growth measure, and it will say, hey, how are we stacking up on Ohio standards? And so then when teachers are looking at that data, they can see, okay, we're struggling on standard 1, for example. Within interliterature, you can then say, okay, what resources do we have that are linked to standard 1? So I can slide back over to my dashboard here. Everything we've been browsing by so far is kind of just the content itself, but there is, this is all fully aligned with your Ohio standards too. So I can scroll down here. My account's linked to a bunch of different states. Yours would just be linked to Ohio. So you can dig in and start finding content that you've identified as a focus area for students. We also have a team at H&H called our Solutions Architects, and this is exactly what they do. They look at this type of assessment data along with state assessment data and others and work with your teams to plan out, based on what they're seeing, how do we approach instruction? What are some professional development needs that we may have? So that's another option that you can work with our solution architect team to think through that more from kind of a planning perspective, but teachers can always dip in to their standards view and find content that if we've identified that via the growth measure or just a classroom assessment that's problematic.
Thank you.
This is another area where that Waggle piece that individuated practice masks activity that I mentioned earlier too, because that also is linked to your Ohio standards. So that's another great place to assign those. If you identify, hey, Ryan's really struggling with incomplete sentences, I can assign him, and maybe the rest of the class isn't. So I can assign him a personalized pathway that he's gonna follow, that data flows back to me, and again, that doesn't interfere with anybody else's learning, it really just personalizes it to what that particular student is struggling with.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you so
questions
much.
for
Can I just jump in for a second? I just wanted to say that I know that Cuyahoga Falls hasn't, had a lot of digital for their ELA. And this is really just it's a tool. It's a very sophisticated tool in that there are a lot of nice things, resources within it. But it really is a teacher-led, and the salesperson in me will really want to offer you the best package of professional development and the best coaching, and just really coming alongside your teachers, because we know that if there's any teacher who may not be as digitally savvy, or this is really new for them, they're going to need some reassurance, and they're going to need some vision to use the program, because we're very well, we know that if the program doesn't get used to its potential, and that there's so much in there that they can tap into if they know about it, we're going to want to, get coaching at the district for your leadership as well, but mostly your teachers.
Thank you.
Are there any questions about that, or I'm just curious about any feedback or anything you'd like to share? I know that this digital, you're just seeing, a nutshell version of the program.
I definitely like that the differentiation is worked into that for our teachers. And it could even be that day. It can be that student, really classed onto that particular topic that day and is just excelling. So that day I can give them something more to do with that differentiation piece. So I really like that that's built in. I think that's definitely something that not all of our resources have, and I would expect it will be well used.
I do too. All right. Thank you, Maria and Ryan. We appreciate your time, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Looking forward to partnering with you, and thank you all so much for your service on the board. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you.
great day.
Bye.
Bye.
So I do have, which you have in your hands, just a brief presentation, and I thank you for letting them go on. I know that was a little more time than we planned, but when I told them 20 minutes, they said, we have all these things. I said, well, I know, but, just, starting off, this is just our May update. Again, as I met with the leadership team last week, our goal, keeping in mind the district's vision, mission, and our focus areas. Mr. Hutch, do you mind forwarding? Thank you. The portrait of the graduate, what are the things that we're trying to get done for our students to help them graduate? And then our next slide is the phases, and there we are at the bottom, making a recommendation to you. So again, I met with the leadership team. The next slide just reminds you of who was on the team. We had people from each level, high school and middle school, including intervention specialists, on the leadership team. And so we met, Dr. Cruz joined us for most of the day. And when we met, Mr. Hutch, thank you. We took our top two contenders and we looked through all of the rubrics that had been filled out by the full committee. And we sat together and we talked, and anywhere where we saw there was maybe a weakness, something we weren't sure about, we actually set up a Zoom that day with Maria and Ryan, and they were able to answer our questions or send me a link for something that we couldn't find or something like that. So that by the end of the day, we felt really satisfied with what we were going to recommend to you. Thank you. So obviously, we're going with HMH into literature. And so the next slides are just a preview for you from what the teachers thought. All of the teachers didn't fill it out individually necessarily. Some of them might have sat with a partner at their own building. I asked the leadership team to present to their ELA colleagues in their own building during ERF last week, which is, one of the things that time is intended for. So they shared what the program had and that sort of thing, and then I asked for their feedback. So you can see in several categories. So one of them is flexibility. So again, there are the 6 units with the lesson planning. We've talked about with the group over and over. We don't expect any teacher to start at page 1 and go to page 712. They're going to flexibly follow to make sure that we're covering all of the standards each year. But as they share, there are all sorts of different ways that those can be supplemented, switching out this text for that and that sort of thing. The ability to integrate the novels with the essential questions, again, we already talked about that. And then the additional support text, which is what he was showing. So that's similar, some of you may have heard, especially if you have kids or I know you have nephews in the district. There are lots of programs out there, Common Lit, Newsella, ReadWorks, several things that are available online that provide content for nonfiction for us to use in our classroom. This is actually embedded within this program, which we love. So the next topic that we looked at, engagement and cultural relevance. The teachers really liked that there were high interest text and units, and they liked that it was very culturally diverse in terms of the authors and the characters. The next area that we looked at, student growth and outcome. So again, they liked the idea that there were the high interest text and units because the more interested students are, the better they're going to perform. And we just know that to be true. Again, cultural diversity so that we're meeting the needs of more of our students. And then there is very explicit language instruction built in, which they shared some of the features from Writeable. But again, Writeable is a separate part of the program that does have built-in instruction. Waggle has built-in instruction if we purchase that. But just within the core program, there are all sorts of, when you open up a page, and this they showed this as an example, but there's a program guide. Every teacher will get a printed copy of the program guide, and it walks them through each unit and different things for student engagement, flexibility and choice, all of these different topics, in addition to the professional development that we would provide. Thanks. The support options, obviously you can see support options were super popular. Our teachers have been working so hard all these years, even before Google, to come up with lessons and things like that. Our current textbooks have a CD-ROM that comes with them, but we no longer have computers that take a CD-ROM. So that's a problem. So they love that there's suggested scaffolding tips and strategies, the availability of professional development, in addition to the ability to have someone come in person. They also have, they'll Zoom with teachers, similar to what we just did here. And they also have tons of just videos. So on their teacher resource site, the teachers can go on and look for something that maybe they're struggling with teaching, and there's a video that they can watch for themselves. Again, that data based on the assessments, Mr. DeFrancisco was able to attend most of our sessions with the literacy committee, and he kept saying, oh, that'd be great for OTES. Oh, that'd be great for OTES. And the teachers said the same thing when they really dug into it. Oh, I can use this for my professional growth plan. I can use this for my high quality student data. It's all right there built in. They don't have to go to 15 other places. They have a video to introduce every unit, and that was something the teachers were looking for, not necessarily that particular, like to introduce, but they wanted to have some videos that, and you don't have to spend 5 hours going through what's appropriate on YouTube. It's already there and ready for you to go. That read aloud option for text and for assessments. And the notice and note guidance they talked about with Kylie Beers and Robert Probst, that is just amazing for kids, really teaching them how to dig into the text and annotate. It's built into the program, and then we will be able to have training for the teachers to help with that. Next option, writing. Again, all sorts of writing activities and prompts. It's all throughout. If you look at one of the sample texts, there's lines on the side for students to write their annotations. If they do it online, you saw what that looks like. And then the access to Writeable. And Writeable has the revision aid, it has mentor text, it has that anonymous peer review, all sorts of things that teachers can use. The next category was integrated SEL. So they didn't mention it, but this program has integrated social emotional learning with every unit. There are suggestions, and as we sat as the full committee using the rubric, the teachers just loved that. It's right there. They don't have to try and find a different text to help support that, and it's just easier to integrate than what we're currently doing. And then also, not only are the texts more geared to our current students, but there are also guidance for modeling and facilitating respectful discussions within the class about novels. And on the PD day, Mrs. McCalick and I presented to teachers, and one of the things that we talked about is we can't control if students are in school or not, and we can't control if they do the reading at night or not, but when they're in our classrooms every day, when they are there, we can read, write, discuss every single day, and that is going to get them what they need on the days they're there, because we can't control those other factors. And yeah, so the effective use of technology, again, you just saw so many different things. So I don't need to go through those. One thing that they did really like is that it frequently updates. That includes the articles, like they were saying there's 700 articles or something like that. They update those every, I think, 10 days or something like that to continue to add more, and they're vetted. So again, you don't have to worry about that inappropriate content slipping through. And then they really like the fact that everything integrated with Google, including the grading. And then the assessments, the idea that they can get feedback immediately by standard, click on the standard, and then you can see, and we have this with our math program too, and you can see, oh, okay, I need to maybe do a small group lesson with these 7 students on this, and then these 5 students might need a lesson on this. And so teachers can work in that sort of thing. Something else we really liked is that the unit assessments have cold reads, meaning that they've never read the material before, so then you really know if they've mastered, if you have taught a skill during that lesson. So, back to the phases. Our next step will be that we would bring this to you with our selection of products. I did a survey of the ELA teacher, of all the ELA teachers, not just the committee, last week, to see would they prefer a hardcover per student, a hardcover class set, or the consumable. And the majority of teachers said that they prefer the consumable, which just comes every year. And we have that with one of our science, our 8th grade science has that. And that, again, looks exactly like the hardcover and looks exactly like what they're seeing online. And so that's perfect. So unless you have questions for me.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure I heard you right. So when the students are working in these programs, it automatically it connects with the Google Classroom. So when they complete assignment, then it would show up on there. Or say automatically.
Sure.
They connect.
Yep, so actually what happens is a teacher will assign it, and they go into the HMH program, and they hit assign, and it creates a way to put it into Google Classroom.
Okay.
And so in Google Classroom, it will actually link them back to HMH, but it's Google integrated in terms of a single sign-on, so they don't have to have a new password or anything like that. It's just, they just click sign in with Google, and they're there, and that sort of thing.
And then I have one more question.
Sure.
Did you get a chance to use the AI tool, like they were saying? With
The Writeable, I did not. It sounded amazing. That was
that was
the one thing.
When the Microsoft Office had a little paper clip that's here to
Right.
help you. But like way better.
Yeah, I mean, it really, it is even better than that, because, you know, that might just be a phrasing thing, but this is literally scanning the entire writing. And something else they didn't mention here, but they mentioned when they presented, is that they keep the students' work, stays connected to them because it's their Google account. And so in terms of plagiarism checking and things like that, not only can students not plagiarize from other people, but they can't say, well, I did a pretty good job on this assignment last year when we did an argument paper, so I'm just gonna change 1 or 2 things and try and submit it again, because it will flag it as plagiarism.
Because they think we're stupid. I mean, I had 3 kids.
Ms. White, I did not say that.
No, I know you don't. No, I meant the kids. Because I had 3 students in my same class turn in the exact same essay.
I remember
and
those
they
days.
didn't think I'd catch it. I did, but it just floored me that they thought I was that dumb. you
Well,
know.
now the computer catches up.
Yeah, exactly, I know. So Julie, are we gonna move to power standards eventually, or we just give?
That is another really nice feature that they
Okay.
have, is they actually have, and that's part of the program guide.
Okay.
They have standards that they suggest that you focus
Okay,
on.
great.
And again, by using the benchmark and other
Yeah,
things,
okay.
you can add in other standards,
sure.
but it's actually all done for the teachers.
Wonderful, because I remember having to look all that up
Yeah.
and do it myself. And then the other question I had is for gifted students, we're not really pulling them out. I know in high school we have the honors and AP, but will this help with the gifted program too, as we, because I know we don't want to pull them out of the classroom, so the differentiated instruction will help with the gifted.
Yeah, so they have
Okay.
differentiation for students who are struggling, for our EL students, and then differentiation for students who are identified as gifted, or maybe they're, not identified, but that doesn't mean
Yeah,
that they're,
okay.
they aren't, maybe reading is their thing, or writing is their thing. So they offer all sorts of suggestions for that, and then we will, we talked about this at our meeting, that we will still have different novels for the honors students than we're having
For the regular
core
classes.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, of course.
On a side note, will you make sure that Mrs. Erb gets a copy of this for Miss Coco so she can?
Oh, of course, yep.
Because she'll send it home to her.
I actually
know
have
she'll
an extra
appreciate
copy,
that. I feel like when we go back to, when we read Focus together, it feels like this is like checking off so many of the boxes of the best practices that we were reading about. And then we got excited about when we talked about it.
Yes.
So I wanted to compliment that. So I think it's great. The feedback's great. What, if anything, is a concern that staff raised about this? Is there anything,
There were.
any hesitation piece?
To be honest, when we did the final vote, for lack of a better term, only one teacher picked the second resource. Everyone else picked this one. There was a tiny bit of concern about that some of the questioning wasn't higher order thinking enough in certain areas, but teachers have the ability to add or edit questions on assessments and things like that. And so because it's so flexible, the team didn't, we just felt that that was
Okay.
kind of a non sequitur.
Anyone else for Mrs. Trudeau? Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, and if you didn't see a paper copy, they are still in the CPC. They're in green and gold boxes that say HMH, so you're welcome to take samples.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then,
That's awesome.
last but not least, presentation number 6, 2 through 5 science curriculum and resources, Dr. Cruz and Dr. Seifert.
Right, so Dr. Siebert's going to share a presentation that will give you an update of where we are in our curriculum adoption for science resources. This has been a, what was the word? Rigorous, lengthy, tedious, I'm not sure which word I want to use here, process that's taken some time. So Dr. Siebert's going to dive into some of the details of that. And, clicker. So, here we are. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Okay, so we're going to get started. Science and literacy learning, a perfect partnership. So literacy demands of science go beyond inquiry skills. Being able to read, view, write, speak about, and listen to a variety of texts in science allows students to access new scientific content, and as a result, they develop their scientific knowledge. So you can probably pull out some of those words that we talked about so much when we're reviewing Fountas and Pinnell and the literacy resources that we use at the elementary level. So this study, one of the reasons it took so long was because we weren't just studying and reviewing science. We were combining it with literacy and making those big connections as well as small, intimate connections. So when we go through this whole process, you'll see that the science study is a part of the literacy study, and the literacy study is a part of the science study. Okay, so this is our little curriculum roadmap. We like our little bus there.
It's trucking along. So these are the main steps that we went through with this process. So the first thing that we did is a walkthrough with the science and the EL learning standards. So first we took the science standards, and I'm going to be honest, we did that several years ago because the science standards changed over in 2018. So 2019 and 20, that school year was dedicated toward doing the walkthroughs for our science and content area. And the other thing that was coupled with that was the study of depth of knowledge. So those years were, it was a big dedication to understanding those 4 different levels for depth of knowledge and how they were incorporated into the new science standards. So the second thing that we did was we did the walkthrough through Ohio's plan to raise literacy achievement. So it was important that the participants for the science committee were just as well versed in Ohio's plan to raise literacy achievement as our literacy committee. So we had our literacy committee, and that was one foundational team of individuals that were really entrenched in Ohio's plan to raise literacy achievement. Well, now we added the second layer of our teachers that were either exclusively teaching science and ELA or that were integrating that curriculum along the way. So our K1, 2, 3 teachers. So one of the pieces for Ohio's plan to raise literacy achievement, we wanted to make sure that the science committee was aware of the science of reading. They're aware of the need for the structured and explicit instruction. And when we're reviewing that with them with literacy, we're able to make those connections of how important it is with their science instruction. So the next thing that we did is we took the science standards and we created pacing for the different units of study for each grade level. And when they did that, they were also taking a look at the ELA standards. Next, we did some research and discussion with the content instructional strategies. So we can even make a connection to what Julie was talking about. They talked about note and notice. They talked about closed reading. So those were some of the strategies that she was talking about. Well, we do those same strategies at the elementary level. We do annotating at the elementary level. We just do it in a little bit different way. We do it developmentally appropriate for those students. But our teachers took the actual resources and we practiced as a committee actually doing those strategies with the teachers. So then they would have those strategies that they could then take and put in their toolbox of instructional strategies that they could take back to the classroom and start using right away. But they practiced those with these different new resources that they had in front of them. So then the teachers, they took the resources and we did some charting that aligned the science standards and the ELA standards, and I have some examples of that in a few slides. And then we took time to write common assessments that aligned with the standards, the pacing, and the resources. So all of that work is already done for grades 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then you can see our little bus climbing up the hill, and our next stop will be a recommendation to all of you. If you have questions along the way, you're very welcome to ask. So a big part of our study was incorporating our science and our literacy learning, and you can see in the center of that circle, we have our literacy and science. Surrounding that, you can see our foundational pieces of literacy learning. So you can see speaking and listening, writing, and then reading and viewing. So you can see those are all of those main pieces that are directly connected. They're in the same circle as studying our science. Then around that, we have science understanding and scientific literacy. So that's when you get into something that's specifically science, content area literacy, and that's disciplinary literacy. So your disciplinary literacy is all of that literacy that is directly science. And it's speaking science, thinking science. It's teaching our students how to be scientists. So these are the different units of study for the different grade levels. So you can see when our committee members were walking through the standards, they focused on these different units separately. So when you look at grade 2 and you compare it with grade 5, we did a lot of work that was bringing just grade 2 teachers in or just grade 3 teachers in. It was necessary to do that in order to help these teachers become specialized in what the content area is. So that's one of those pieces that it truly does make this process take longer. But if we're going to do it, we want to do it right. And we want to make sure that our takeaways from this is going to be good quality work. So here's an example of the science standards. So this is a 4th grade standard with electricity. So you can see on the left-hand side, those are our 2018 content statements. And you can see what's crossed out. That's what was there formerly before the 2018 standards came into play. What's underlined is that primary standard. And then underneath it, there's a description of what that means. So those are the actual vocabulary words and instructional words that are to be used when teaching those standards. That's where you get your level of knowledge for your depth of knowledge, how deep you want to go into those standards. That's where the teachers learn about that. Then the instructional implications, that section gives you the comparisons with the grade levels before and after. So that's your vertical content connections. And it makes connections with grade levels that are even beyond that. Because if you notice when we look at this, the content doesn't necessarily make a step to the next grade level. It might make a step to 2 grade levels up. But when you're reading those content elaborations here with the instructional implications, that right there helps the teachers in 4th grade understand where there's going to be learning in science at another grade level. So this is the next step that the teachers worked on. So you can see the first column, those are our power standards for ELA. So the teachers took the power standards, and right next to them, they would have one of the new resources, something that they had already previewed, something that they were making connections to, and that they liked, that they felt like was going to be some piece of quality, a quality resource for the students. So they took that resource and they identified what ELA standards were present in that science resource. And then the last column there, that's when they identified the different pieces that they needed to pull out that were connected with the science standards. And they already began identifying the different pieces from those books that they wanted to be the top pieces of instruction. So you can see that INV, so that's investigation. So those are the words that are used in the elementary level when they're trying to do experiments and to think like a scientist. Those are their investigations. So you can see in that particular resource, they've already identified in that unit what are the pieces that they can pull out as meaningful instructional resources. So here's some quotes directly from some of our teachers. These are their reflections. Children need to develop literacy skill proficiency for success in all academic content areas. And children need to develop proficiency in language and literacy skills to be successful in all academic content. Underdevelopment impacts school achievement and social behavior. So this was used, this was a time when I asked the teachers to make a connection between Ohio's plan to raise literacy achievement and the science standards. So we had taken some time, some work time, weeks in between, and I asked them to go back and make some connections with what we were currently doing and what we had talked about previously. So this is actually a quote from NASA. Through hands-on investigations, students will be able to integrate and communicate these skills throughout the content areas and not in isolation of simply language, arts, or science. So the goal is really for science not to be taught in isolation, but for it to become an extension of our ELA block. And there we go. So do you have any questions for me?
Okay, just one or two. Sure. The pacing. I know I see that term, and I don't like pacing guides, to be honest, but they don't have to I mean, if you want to go in more depth into one of those, you can take a little more time, can't you? Or do you have to conform to, got to do this in 2 days, this in a week? I hate that personally, I just do. I'd rather see them go into depth and study something thoroughly than have to rush through. And I don't know if that's what this is or not. So that's my question.
No, well, I don't believe in that either.
Good.
But I do believe that you have to have things paced out enough so that teachers can have conversations about what they're teaching. And then if we have conversations across buildings, we want to make sure that they're teaching something similar.
Sure, and I understand that, but, this has to be done in a day or two. That's what
No, so
it's
for
not.
example, the
Okay.
recommendations that they have right now is we have things paced out by the week.
Okay.
They could be a week or two in front, a week or two behind. They're in the ballpark
But okay,
area.
that's fine.
So that's what we do.
Thank you.
Go back to those words, teachable moment.
Yes.
We want them to capitalize on teachable moments. We want our teachers to use their own autonomy and to make great decisions based off the students that they have in their classroom. So if we bind them too much, then they're not getting to do that. And we hired our teachers because they are great decision makers. And they know what's best for their students in the classroom.
Thank you.
We support that.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad.
So if we go back to that image of the path that we're on the bus that I assume Dr. Cruz is driving. That's that's her thing. She wants to drive a bus. But back on that with like where we're going. So where are we? This is great work, by the way.
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge that too. It's phenomenal
The bus in
work.
particular. It's a good bus.
So where are we at in terms of getting to a resource? Like, what is that?
So Wednesday, we will meet with Dr. Zender, sorry, I forgot her name for a second. Dr. Zender from Summit County ESC, and she's gathering the quotes for us on our resources. So that meeting is Wednesday.
On different resources, or are you down to like, we kind of know which one we
So
want?
the way the science resources work is there's a couple main science companies that they use. So one of them is National Geographic. I'm going to draw a blank because we're using a component of one of them, and it's called FOSS. So there's three different ones that the elementary committee has chosen to use. So for example, grades 4 and 5 are focused more on these two resources, and then grade 2 is focused more on this one resource. So what they do is they look at those areas. So they might look at light and sound, and they go across all of the resources, and they pull out units. So they don't choose a big giant fat textbook. It's not what they do. So the books are small. Some of them even have the small trade books where there'll be 10 trade books on light and sound. So the students can sit and they can use theirs, they can use that in the guided reading, their guided reading groups. So the resources are designed very different than what we're used to. So like I said, there's 3 primary resources that they've chosen from, but there'll be something from
Yeah,
each
mix
one
and
of
match
those.
the best.
Yeah, it's really neat.
And so we're doing 2-5, and I understand that because we walked through a lot of the focus of K1 when we did the whole literacy study piece.
Right.
But of course, we still want to talk about science in K1, and we still are talking about science. So are we doing that through the FPC resources and the different things? Okay. I just think it's good to mention that there is still science in those pieces, parts.
Absolutely. And there might be some things some resources or tools that they need, instructional tools for investigations. So it's not that we're ignoring them. If there's things that they need that go along with what they're doing within FPC and within their literacy block, then that's certainly something that we capitalize on. Yeah. And FPC actually has quite a few books that can be integrated into the science block, but not quite enough. And they don't get into the investigations and that thinking like a scientist as much as we want them to. So that was one of the controversies is, well, let's wait and see what FPC has. So we took actually grade 3 And we studied that across the way, and we looked at the kind of literature that was there. And it's just not, thinking like a scientist is the best way to describe it. It doesn't give the students that opportunity. But grades 3 through 5, their literature is 60% nonfiction and 40% fiction. Did I say that right? 60% nonfiction and 40% fiction for grades 3 through 5. And then K through 2 is 60% nonfiction, 40%. Nope, said it wrong again. 60% fiction, 40% nonfiction. So we want to make sure that they're getting exposure, but we know that nonfiction can be written a lot of different ways.
Anyone else? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, on to item E, Treasurer CFO's business consent agenda. Ms. Stoicoy.
Thank you. I'd like to recommend that the Board of Education approve all items listed in the treasurer's consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Yeah, a couple things. Donations, let me get to that. We had a handful of donors choose, Pat Shaw, and then again, the Ben Curtis Family Foundation, with more of the birdie bags. And I believe they were doing some things in the community too this week for teacher appreciation. So that's always appreciated. Any donations are always welcome. And then the amended appropriations, and I'll go a little more in detail next meeting when I go over the forecast. There were increases to our on retirement and our permanent improvement, this project maintenance fund, the 034 fund. In expenses, we received our final settlement from the county, and some of the expenses, so we're charged fees. And what this was is refunds to taxpayers were higher than anticipated in these categories. A lot of people, again, I'm not gonna go into a whole lot of detail because it's a whole there's twofold issues here, but with the large increase for everyone back in 2020, a lot of people contested their values. If they're successful, then we owe them that, that refund back to them. So those were much higher than normal, which was kind of anticipated, but not to the extent that they were. I will also go into how that will affect us in the future because we don't have the same rights anymore that we've had in the past as far as property tax valuation and complaints. So we'll talk more about that next week.
Any questions or comments? Please call the roll.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Aye.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye. Item F, Treasurer CFO's business. Ms. Stoicoy, your comments.
Yes, just two real quick things. One, I wanted to echo what you said earlier regarding the levy. It is, we really do appreciate it, the support from the community. Hopefully this starts to ease some of the voter fatigue. And as I say that in one breath, I'm gonna say on my other comment in the other breath that I'd like to have a discussion next meeting regarding the emergency levy. Those resolutions would typically go to board sometime in June. And it's a little bit, it's a different levy since it's the emergency levy. It is our last opportunity in November, as we've talked about before. But I just would like to kind of discuss length of time. Again, this is one that can't be continuing, but it can be anywhere up to 10 years. So I just like to have a discussion to get your thoughts next meeting so I can then kind of move forward and get those resolutions from our legal, and so we can get those board approved. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Item G, Superintendent CEO's business consent agenda. Mr. Shabady.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve all items listed in the superintendent's business consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? I wanted to, I know we're gonna honor all our retirees at the next meeting, but just to, make mention of Lorraine Ruppel, who is a cleaner here at the high school, will be retiring with 38 years of experience, so just, that's worth mentioning. A big thank you to her. And then I wanted to ask Mr. Brigatti on the piece for the HVAC. Will you just, mention what we're doing with that, because I think it's important to hopefully get that out to the greater community about the due diligence piece.
Yes, we've had one company in here called Heat already that took a look at our HVAC systems. And I wanted a second opinion on where we want to go as a district and what that cost may be. So we're hopefully going to tonight hire Wright Engineering to come in, do an evaluation first of Richardson and Lincoln, because those are our two buildings with the most students and the most difficult situations with heat and stuff like that, deteriorating boilers. So once he does that, he's also going to, and gives us a number and price and recommendations, he's also going to do the same for Price, Preston, and Silver Lake. So at the end of all this, we should have a number of what it would cost for our air conditioning for 5 of our elementary buildings, because as we know, our 6th elementary building, which is DeWitt, has air conditioning. Later, there may be some recommendations to upgrade that system because it is old. So at the end, we should see something that says, here's the cost of all these buildings to do. Here's the time frame. Here's, if we go through bidding process, what that's going to look like, and recommendations on what exactly to put into those buildings.
Thank you.
With a time frame.
I appreciate that, because at the end of the day, we know, whatever it is, it's gonna be a big expenditure, you know, one way or another. So I appreciate the amount of effort you're putting into to make sure that, what we spend money on is justified, the numbers are justified, what we're getting will be the best product that we can get. I really do appreciate that work that you're doing in your team. Anyone else? Please call the roll.
Mrs. Schaefer? Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye. Item H, Superintendent CEO's business. Your comments, Mr. Shabady.
Just a couple things. First of all, as all of you know, this week is everybody's appreciation week, I think. It's food and service appreciation, bus driver appreciation, principal appreciation. But we know that what drives our district is our teaching staff. And this is Teacher Appreciation Week, and I hope all of us take some time to send a note or just a bit of appreciation for the job that those people do on a daily basis with our kids. And it is appreciated. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but it is greatly appreciated. So we want to thank all those different groups for what they do for the kids in the school district. Also want to congratulate the board, the community, school district for the passage of renewal levy. Trust me, I've been places where renewal levies didn't pass, and you can't take those things for granted. And to see 60%, I think, or close to 60%, is still encouraging. I'm sure you'll speak on it later, but I just want to say it was exciting getting back into that and watching the Board of Elections updating and seeing where we were, especially when you're winning. It makes you feel a lot better. Congratulations. I'd be remiss not to mention Tim Belpy, because again, I've been in many levy committees throughout my career, and to have that guy on your side is a huge plus, so he deserves a lot of credit. I just want to mention the board. I've been meeting with Dr. Selico on a weekly basis. I probably could meet with her on a daily basis, because she seems like she's here all the time. So I just want to say that that's gone really well. It's going to be a seamless, hopefully, transfer of power, so to speak. And but she is up and running and doing a great job. So I just want to recognize that. And last, I'd like to recognize Dr. Cruz and her group with the PD Day yesterday. There's a lot of positives going on around the day, some great speakers and events, but just a good day overall. So I think right now, going into the end of the school year, it seems like it's a positive, and the levy passing helps that. So I think we're in a good place, and I think with the new superintendent coming in, it's going to even get better. So thank you.
Thank you. On to item I, board business. Number 1 is a resolution to express disapproval of Ohio House Bill 616 and its proposed censorship of education issues of race, gender, sexuality, and other equity issues. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Harris to read it since he did the work of writing it.
Don't we need a motion first?
No, to read it and then we'll motion.
Okay.
All right. A resolution to express disapproval of Ohio House Bill 616 and its proposed censorship of education on issues of race, gender, sexuality, and other equity issues. Whereas the Board of Education of Cuyahoga Falls City School District, Summit County, Ohio, otherwise known as Board, is a public school system within Summit County, and whereas on April 4th, 2022, Ohio State Representatives introduced House Bill 616 to amend Sections 3313.21, 3314.03, and 3326.11, and to enact Section 3313.6029 of the revised code regarding the promotion and teaching of divisive or inherently racist concepts in public schools, and whereas House Bill 616 further restricts teaching, using, or providing curriculum or instructional material on sexual orientation or gender identity. Whereas House Bill 616 dictates no teacher shall receive continuing education credit or other credit required for licensure renewal for any seminar or other program that teaches, promotes, or endorses divisive or inherently racist concepts. And whereas House Bill 616 would prevent the district from meeting its mission of every student, every day, every opportunity, prevents implementation of our culture of caring, and impedes our district's health and wellness initiatives. And whereas House Bill 616 would further erode local control of our schools, and whereas Board expresses its firm disapproval of this legislation, as meaningful education around issues of equity and inclusion should be prioritized in schooling, not censured. Now therefore it be hereby resolved by the Board of Education of the Cuyahoga Falls City School District that Section 1, the Board expresses disappointment in the author, supporters, and introduction of House Bill 616. Section 2, the Board affirms its commitment to supporting a robust and engaged conversation, education, and programming in and outside of the classroom and school environment on such topics as race, gender, sexuality, and other equity issues. Section 3, the Board encourages state representatives to reject this harmful piece of legislation and to take no further action on House Bill 616. Section 4, it is hereby found and determined that all formal actions of the board concerning and relating to the adoption of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of the board.
So moved.
I'll second.
Discussion? Ms. Coco, although she can't be here, she emailed me something she'd like me to read on her behalf, so I'm going to do that. So this is from Ms. Coco. Although I'm not present this evening to vote on the resolution against House Bill 616, I felt it imperative that my stance on this issue is publicly acknowledged. This bill is in blatant contradiction to our district's vision of creating a culture of caring for every student. While our lawmakers are busy creating smoke and mirrors legislation in Columbus, our teachers, our administration, and our staff are on the front lines working to give every student every day every opportunity to learn in an environment that they feel supported and safe. This bill is taking away the autonomy needed to make sure every student has the resources and support they need to be successful. This is equity at its core. This bill is taking already marginalized groups of students and caretakers and making it very clear to them from the earliest point possible that they should have no representation within our schools and that they don't matter. I have never shied away from being an advocate for all. This includes our LGBTQ plus community and our Black, Indigenous, and persons of color communities, and anyone else that lawmakers attempt to silence and erase. I am in support of the resolution against House Bill 616. And again, that's from Ms. Coco. I'll just say, for my behalf, I read House Bill 616 twice. Because if I'm going to support something, I want to know what it is. And we're going to oppose something, I want to know what it is. And it's just nonsensical. Because it says you can't talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but the bill doesn't define what that is. So it makes it subjective. And that's nonsensical. You know, we want to go back to good work we've done with focus. You got to define your terms. You got to know what you're talking about. And we're already seeing the harm that this is causing in the state of Florida, where, you know, they can't even find a math textbook to teach because, you know, there might be inclusive pictures of families there. But I think as we look at our Board of Education, we look at our community, every meeting with our top tigers, we're a diverse community that's trying to be equitable and inclusive, and we can't be who we are as Cuyahoga Falls City Schools without those things.
I just want to echo a little bit of the words of the Michigan State Senator Mallory McMorrow. If you haven't seen her, I would highly recommend that you visit her. I don't know what it is, if it's YouTube or whatever, but it was outstanding. And kind of what she said, I tried to kind of jot it down. I might have gotten it wrong, but, you know, this hollow, hateful scheme of targeting marginalized kids in the name of parental rights is hateful. Learning about slavery or racism makes kids feel bad. That's ridiculous. No child alive today is responsible for slavery. We aren't responsible for the past, nor can we change it, but we can write the next chapter. Children shouldn't be targeted because they are different, not white or Christian. Every child should be heard and respected. Hate cannot win. I love that, and she was absolutely wonderful. I hope you get a chance to listen to her speech.
I can go. You want to go, Karen?
I can't really, Alicia, Ms. Coco said, she
Yes,
really,
she did.
I was just gonna read the statement from Ohio Education Association. These politicians are continuing to use race and sexual orientation as we wedge issues to score cheap political points, and they should be ashamed of themselves. Rather than persisting with these disingenuous attacks on educators in public schools, we need pro-public education policies that enable students to think critically about the world around them, empower them to be proud of who they are, regardless of where they come from, what they look like, how they express their gendered identities, or who they or their parents love. And this bill just robs our students of the ability to learn and think critically in a safe environment.
I said a lot of the things I wanted to say last week, but I will, I'll keep it really short. Our children, our staff, our teachers are not pawns for political gain. And I think that we are seeing so much of that coming from Columbus. And I know, I'll speak for myself, I won't speak for any of the members up here, but I know they would jump to protect any student, any teacher, any staff member from this kind of vile legislation coming from Columbus. So I just want to thank everyone here on the board for their support of this, and this is the right move. So.
And just one more thing, as you were saying that came to mind is that I think, we're taking action as a board, and, that's an easy thing to do sometimes, but it's really being supported by the work that happens every day in our district. So we're taking this action not just because there's a bill, we're taking this action because this work is happening every day in our district, and we don't want our educators to lose the ability to do that.
Right.
So we're taking this action on their behalf to advocate for them to be able to do what they do every day.
Right.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Ms. White?
Aye.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer?
Item 2, construction collaborative communication. We're trying to find something to call this, but basically we want to talk about how we're communicating our 612 project, especially in terms of the CLT meetings we're having and with the process going forth. So this kind of came from gender review last week, which was Ms. Coco and myself. It was very beneficial that Ms. Coco had it since she couldn't be here, so she got to be informed of everything. So that worked out really well. And then conversations with Dr. Cruz as well, and the whole administration that was there about what's going on. So the thought is the construction leadership team, that's not the right word. We have too many words. Planning committee meetings that we have every month. We're at a point in the process where every 30 days, there isn't necessarily information to share out. We saw that with April's canceled. With May, that's not gonna be, they're not gonna have the design to show at that May meeting. So we had a lot of conversations about that. We don't wanna waste people's time, but in the same sense, we don't wanna lose the engagement of people that have been very engaged in the process. So how do you kind of try to balance out the two? So we've had discussions about making those planning committees where we all have a discussion, maybe making them quarterly. Even that, I don't know if you want to just say quarterly. I think it's as there's information to share. And I know that's hard because it's harder for people to know whether or not they can come, but I think it breeds frustration when we just say we're going to meet every 30 days when we know that that's not the path that we're on. But we could keep those meetings for more conversation for ourselves as a Board of Education, because I do think there's a need for us to have more conversation and get brought up and to understand the decisions that are being made and why those are being made, so that we can make sure we're comfortable, because there's going to come a point in the process where we're going to have to take a vote. At these major milestones, we want to make sure that the 5 of us that have to take a vote on that understand what we're voting on and are comfortable with the work that's gone into it. And to that, I will also say, I also don't think that any of the 5 of us necessarily want to, it's not our intention to second guess those decisions, nor do I think we have a desire to make all of those decisions. We just want to understand them and have an ability to ask some more questions and to make sure that we are being good advocates for our community. So that's kind of what that is. And then Ms. Coco also sent me her thoughts. Don't say she's not a hard worker, because she is still here tonight. So she said about the planning committee meetings, maybe send out a monthly email still to all of those people, even if we're not meeting. If we're having, on those third Thursdays, if we're having it be more of a board discussion, still invite them to come, but let them know that it's not going to be a large group discussion that time. And then she also thought it might be helpful to have another board member join the core team. I know I can't personally do Thursday afternoons. If somebody else can join Ms. White at those on Thursday afternoons, that's great. And if somebody here can't do that, Ms. Coco would be willing to do that as well. So that's the start. And then on to the, those are 2 people's thoughts,
Yeah.
because I was representing her thoughts as well.
Those are good.
Do you want our thoughts?
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I really want to get rid of the planning committee meetings every month. I think they've been with us this long, and I think they have a right to speak and be heard, and that's what those meetings are for. Maybe not every month, but I think we should meet regularly with them, not just every quarter. I think it's important to keep them in the discussion and let them know what's going on. So I don't know if I like that necessarily. That's my feeling on that. I do agree with the emailing them regularly, because they need to know what's going on. And I'd be happy to have somebody else sit with the core team, because it's not easy always deciding what I can bring back and what I can't yet at the time. So, that is fine. But that's my thoughts. I don't really want to let the planning committee go. They've been a part of this from the beginning.
And both neither me nor Ms. Coco are saying to let them go. That's not what we're saying at all. But you
Again-
said maybe not monthly, but not quarterly. So what is your thought in terms of?
Maybe every 6 weeks or so. I mean, again, I think we should stick with the monthly meetings. The reason we put off the last one in April was because our team asked us to. They needed more time. And so we said, fine, how can we help you? What do you need? We'll give you the time. But I don't know if we need to do that every time they meet. So again, that was the reason why we combined the 2 meetings, because they said they'd be ready to go at that meeting, and they're going to meet with us on the day before, early. Did they talk to you about that? Coming in and having us meet early before the board meeting, so they could present things to us, because that's what they told us.
They didn't tell us that. You're supposed to be bringing us that as our core team rep.
Okay, but I'm not the one that organizes that. I don't know how you guys feel. If you're good with coming in at 4:30, that is what they asked, and I told them to contact you as the president of the board, and nobody did, is what you're saying.
In terms of what?
Of
Meeting
coming
today?
in. No. On the meeting before the planning committee was going to meet, we suggested we come in an hour early at that meeting so that they could present to the whole board before the community meeting and they present to them.
Well, going back to the conversation we had last week, our team at TDA is saying the meeting every 30 days at this point in the process is something that they don't believe is appropriate because they will not necessarily have information to share at that level every 30 days.
Well, I'll be meeting with them tomorrow, so maybe we can discuss a little more how they feel and what they think.
Because I'm curious about that. I mean, I think at the last meeting, we were kind of talking in circles, you know, about things we had already discussed in previous weeks, so at a previous meeting. I do believe that those meetings are important and their involvement is important. I would like to see those continue, but I think figuring out, I do agree that the once-a-month thing, you know, that's not going to yield much results for us. We'll be talking about the same thing over and over again, and I don't want to waste the community's time and our time with that as well, so.
Can we do those when we have a meeting and then at that meeting decide if it's necessary to meet in 30 days? And they'll kind of let us know what their timetable is for something that would have new information to meet with the entire committee.
Kind of play it by ear kind of
Like,
thing at the
right, we
time.
could say we have one on the books for every 30 days, but if, but
Yeah.
we can,
Right.
like we did with the April, if we didn't need to meet, there wasn't any new information, then we could kind of, I could say play it by ear, but we could cancel them and instead of scheduling one, we could just take one off the books if we need to.
Right.
Right, I would
I mean, we could still meet
Yeah, I could-
also,
yeah.
or
But-
we could have a meeting that isn't a two-way communication meeting where we could be presented, like a regular board meeting. And if it's not new information being presented, the people that are attending that could maybe submit questions, the things that, so we know what we need to talk about further or what concerns that they're having currently.
I like that.
Yeah, and so in my conversations with, I talked to Bill and Scott, Bill from Hammond and Scott from TDA. In May, they would be very supportive of having it be a conversation with the board so that both administration and they can get us up to date. And then in June, they would be more comfortable having a larger group discussion of what's going on. So that's where they're at in terms of thoughts as well.
Well, again, I will be at the core meeting tomorrow because that is not what they voiced to me. And so that kind of, I don't know, but, okay.
So now they're saying no May meeting?
No, they're saying they'd like to meet with the board in May.
Oh, in
And
May,
both
okay.
they and administration feel that it's necessary to make sure that the board is being appropriately informed of where we're at in the process.
Right,
And it's still a public meeting, we would
Yes.
still invite people to come, but it wouldn't be just a large group. They feel like they really need to understand our thoughts and make sure that they're having time to converse with the five of us.
And that's why they suggested we come an hour early at the next board meeting so they could present to us before the May meeting with the planning team. And I asked them to talk to you, Mr. Gomez, and make those arrangements.
I have a question. I'm
Yeah.
confused how that would work. So if they would come in, and would we start the meeting early and then just maybe take a break while the other people are filling in after the 1 hour or hour early? How would that work?
You'd have to, like, we'd have to
Would it be two separate
Notice.
meetings or one meeting?
You can do it as one meeting.
yeah, we would just
could.
renotice the time.
Mhm.
Or you're going to bring that up to them tomorrow? This way? Okay. I'm curious.
You betcha.
Yeah, I'm curious
I'm getting really,
what happened there. So.
I'll let go.
Well, I think unfortunately, part of the issue is that the information isn't getting to the whole board.
Right.
And so that needs to be redefined, but
Mhm.
in the conversations I'm having, that's, the path forward for May would be to have a conversation with the board, of course, it's in public, and then in
Mhm.
June to roll it out to a larger group. So that's where we're at tonight, and that's the conversation that we need to have, because we can't wait until tomorrow, unfortunately, because we can't talk about it as a board then until May 17th, and then I would be going home, sending an email less than 24 hours of notice, letting the planning committee members know what that is. So we need to, at least for May, kind of work towards a path forward tonight.
If they did, I mean, if they had mentioned us coming in early, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to doing that,
I wouldn't have been
just to
opposed
see how it works, at least for this month.
So, and talking to Scott and Bill, and I don't wanna, they were doing that because they feel like they had to present to the community as a whole and take them in, but that's not what they believe is the right path for May.
That
They
is-
were proposing that because they believe that they didn't have a choice.
No. I'm sorry, Anthony. That is not how it went down at the meeting last time, that, at least not in my opinion. In my opinion, I asked them, how can we help you? Let's cancel that meeting, and I said, fine, all right, if that'll help, and you'll be ready to present to the May 19th meeting for the planning committee, and they said that was fine, that was all the time they needed. That gave them the extra time. I don't know why now they're saying June, because we haven't met, the core team. And so, again, I was planning on meeting with them tomorrow to figure this out. And then I had said, well, let's, find a time when the board can be informed first, because that was a problem. And that's when we suggested we meet an hour before on the 18th of our board meeting, but they were to call you and let you know, so that you could talk to everybody and schedule that. And that's, in my remembrance, in my notes, that's what I had down. Now, if I got that wrong, then that's me, but that is what they told me. And that is why we went ahead and canceled the April 28th meeting and combined it with the May 19th, because that's what they wanted.
And I understand that, but again, conversations I've had with administration, conversations I've had with them, they want to have the May meeting with us as a Board of Education. That is what they are asking of us. I'm trying to
That's what they said. That's why they were gonna meet an hour before the
not,
board.
but then not with the whole group. And so,
It's not. It would be before the board meeting, they present to us.
well,
And then the planning committee is the next evening, when they would present to us first as board members.
that's not really what they want. That's
Okay.
what they feel like they have to do to, get through the core team meeting. They felt that they had to agree to that. They do not believe that that is the best path forward.
They should have said it then.
They don't feel comfortable sharing some of their honest thoughts at the core team meetings due to some of the feedback they've been given by people that were there. And I've been trying to avoid saying that,
That's
but
okay, but
that's what they
again,
told
they
me.
have
So
to
that's why
be
we're having this
straightforward.
conversation, because they don't feel that they are able to always say what they think is best because of how, sometimes how that information has been received by people there and then not supported. So this is where we're at.
Okay.
They really feel the May meeting should be a meeting with the Board of Education. Planning team is welcome to come, anyone's welcome to come. It's a public meeting, and then in June, we could have a planning team meeting open for discussion again. That is what
So
they
they are
believe is
now
best.
asking us for another month from the 19th to meet in June. Is that correct? Is that what they're saying?
I need you to clarify that statement.
Okay,
from my
we're supposed to meet with the planning team on May 19th. Now they're saying they want to wait until the third Thursday in June to meet with the planning team.
They feel that it's important to meet with the Board of Education and have an honest conversation with the Board of Education on where they're at as a full meeting in public
That's what
before
we-
we have that, and then at the next meeting, open it up to the public.
Well,
That is
that's
they
what we
believe is
decided,
best.
that's what we said. Why can't they do that on the May 18th meeting?
No, at the next meeting in June.
So then it would put it off another month. So instead, okay, whatever, I'm not.
That's what
I'm
they
not-
believe is best. And I was reached out to because.
That's fine, but you know
that's
what?
they believe
They
is
should speak up at that meeting then. I'm sorry, but I need to know what they're, I asked them straight out, how can I help? How can we help you? And that is what they told me. Now, if they're afraid of me, I don't know why. I'm not gonna bite their ankles or anything. You know, this is getting ridiculous. I mean, we need to get going and move forward. And I don't like the idea that we're keeping the planning committee members out of it, totally. They need to be involved. They were involved in the beginning. They're the ones that passed the levy. You know, you were part of that, and a lot of us were. So it's really irritating to me to have to come back and hear this when I'm sitting there in that meeting and I asked them, how can I help? What can we do? And they said, cancel the 28th, we'll combine it with the 19th. And I said, okay, we will do that. We will do that. We'll give you that time. So it makes, I'm sorry, it just makes me a little angry.
I think other people
So-
are angry because they feel that the Board of Education is being left out of it.
No, but we agreed to that. We already said you need to present to the board first. That's what, never mind. I'm done.
People feel that the Board of Education isn't being fully informed of what's going on, and we need to be because we are elected by the community. So before it goes out to the community.
Exactly.
We have an
Exactly.
obligation to understand what's happening. We have an obligation to know more of what's happening at the core team meetings and to know what's being said on our behalfs at those core team meetings in terms of paths forward.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Do we have, or will they have new information for the large group, new information in May? Is there new things for that, for the group?
Well, in terms of, is there gonna be new information in general? Yes. But they feel that the board is here in terms of understanding. They are here in terms of where they're at, and they need to bridge this gap before they go out and have because they are not hearing what we think enough to shape what's
Okay.
the path going forward.
So there's more work that needs to be done after when the gap closes to then present to the community.
Yeah, because they don't want to present a finished design to the community for feedback until they've had a conversation with the Board of Education about what that looks like. And not the same night, because we might give them feedback that they need time to then work
Need more
into
lead
their
time.
plan
Okay.
before they present it to the community. Because it's an iterative process, you know? Every day they're throwing things out, plugging it in, oh, that won't work, oh, that would work, let's see, you know, maybe, you know, jot that down, and going and going and going, and they need to bring us as a Board of Education up to speed.
If we do not meet with the larger group in May, and then instead meet in June with the larger group, having met with just the board at a public meeting in May, do you think that it would be in June, a presentation to the larger group that is a lot more information than we've been doing at each meeting? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, I think that's an accurate statement. I think they're gonna be closer to a finished product, but still able, if, you know, that group brings feedback that we as a board or staff and, you know, that group says, oh, no, that one thing, that's gonna be a problem, there would
Okay.
still be time to work that into the plan.
So the larger group will not be left out of any of the,
No, they would still be able
Okay.
to have opinions before
okay,
we sign on anything on the dotted line. So we're not taking them out of, being able to help shape what that design development process is going to look like now.
knowing that, I would not be opposed to having the large group meeting in June versus in May, and postponing that May meeting for the larger group, having a conversational meeting until June.
I mean, if that's what they feel needs to happen, that's what we have to do.
Anything further on this topic?
Disappointment.
Item 3, future agenda items. Does anyone have any future agenda items they'd like to bring up?
The gifted program, I'd still like to hear a little bit about if it's possible sometime here soon.
Slated for next.
Okay.
Next meeting, we're gonna have a lot, because we have 5-year forecast, which is important and takes a lot of time because it is so important. And then we have several things coming from the curriculum department as well, and our retiree celebration, which if you didn't see today, that starts at 5, so if you can get here a little bit before, you can, chit chat with our retirees before the meeting begins as well. And then item 4, committee reports, 612 core team, Ms. White.
Just the same as I said last time, we're still looking at each teacher getting their classrooms in the 6-9 area, whether to put the removable walls in there. That was a big topic of discussion. I don't know how much I can go into anything because I don't want to say something until the rest of the board hears what it is that they have to tell you. So we will be meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock.
Thank you. Alliance for School and Community Growth. That's Ms. Coco, and she's not here, but I believe they meet next week.
Next Tuesday.
Athletics and Activity Council, Mrs. Schaefer.
We are scheduled to meet on June 6th.
Board Policy, that's Ms. White and myself.
Yeah, we need to make a date.
I believe we're meeting Tuesday at 5:05. Does that work for you, Ms. White?
Which Tuesday?
This coming Tuesday.
I'll have to check, but I think so. At
Okay.
5,
Yeah, 5:05,
5:05?
just so I can drive up the street.
I know,
And
I
park and get
understand.
in the building. And then I wanted to ask Mr. Hutch, can you get us a copy of that policy that you had? Yeah,
Yeah.
like a hard copy.
Yep.
Ms. White and I are hard copy people, so.
Yes,
we'll
please.
need-
Want it before the meeting? or
If you could get it to
Yes.
Mrs. Erb, she'll get it to us on Friday.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Business Advisory Council, Mr. Harris?
Yeah, I believe our next meeting is May 24th at 8 a.m.
Financial Advisory Committee, Mrs. Schaefer?
Next Thursday, May 12th.
You're gonna get the 5-year forecast, I bet.
Fingers crossed.
Foundation Alumni Association, that's me. Just a reminder that this coming Monday, May 9th at 7 p.m. here in the auditorium is our annual scholarship, distinguished alumni and teacher grants, and we're really excited about it. It's gonna be exciting. Legislative Liaison, Mr. Harris.
Yeah, there's really not too much. I got a chance to watch a little bit of the Ohio Redistricting Commission before I came in. Boy, what a mess. They do have a Friday deadline to get us a new map. According to Secretary LaRose, I don't see that happening without emergency legislation to make that extend some of the dates they need to get to meet that primary deadline. That's coming up in August, I think, so. And then just keeping an eye on a couple House bills here. I mentioned some of them last time. House Bill 592, the Urban Farmer Youth Initiative Pilot Program. I'm really interested in that. House Bill 601, which is the STRS and SERS contribution percentage increase phased out over 8 years. House Bill 606 require public and charter non-public schools to create individualized seizure action plans. And then obviously House Bill 616. So I'll have a better update next meeting.
Thank you. Student Achievement Liaison, Ms. White.
We meet on May 23rd, 3:45 at the ESC.
Thank you. Student Wellness and Success Liaison, that's me, and I believe, are we doing that at the next meeting as well? The panorama? Yes. So we'll go into that, and then I'm sure we'll have questions, comments, and next steps, and I'm looking forward, looking forward to the information to kind of see where we're at, so we can talk about what we can do, because I don't think I'll look forward to some of the realities of where we're at. Item 5, comments. I'm up first. I want to give a huge shout out to the Art Walk. What a phenomenal event. It's always a phenomenal event, but it somehow gets better every year. We're gonna have to find a way to build more businesses downtown, so there's more space for things next year. But I was especially Ms. Hamilton at Roberts. The food stuff that they made out of toilet paper was so impressive.
It really was.
And the kids were so excited about it. So it's not just good art; it's stuff that the kids are still so excited about, and that's great teaching on her behalf. Again, thank you for the levy. I'm looking forward to. We're going. Most of us, I think, are going down to Columbus this week for the Board Leadership Institute, which is 2 days of really intense school board learning, and I always really enjoy that. And the Black Caucus that I'm on, we met and we talked about, let me get this, the Coalition of State School Board Associations, which Ohio is a founding member of, and they're really getting started now. There's a website, and they're talking about different conferences and resources that they can offer to us as NSBA kind of fades out. This is coming up. There's over 20 state school board associations that are part of it, and just stay tuned for more information from Rick Lewis and OSBA about that. And I wanted to give a shout out to the Sustainability Summit that the city is having at the Natatorium on May 14th from 9 to 1, because our school district is all over that. Some of our students got to propose as part of it different business plans of how to sell it. Our Fresh Farm is going to be at it, and the person that plans it that works for the city, Bryce Pulley, is a graduate of Cuyahoga Falls as well. So we're all over that, and I think it's going to be an exciting event. Next up is Mr. Harris.
Could you get the dates for that one more?
It's May 14th from 9 to 1 at the Natatorium. It's a Saturday.
Okay. Perfect. All right. First off, as always, congratulations to our top Tigers. Our Friend of Education Award winner, Mr. Brown, and our graduate, Mr. Fass. I want to thank the community for supporting the latest levy, echoing a lot of stuff here. It's that support that will allow us to continue working on behalf of every student every day. Amazing job by students and staff during this year's Art Walk. Besides seeing some impressive pieces, and Mr. Gomez mentioned some of the most impressive ones that I was actually getting hungry looking at toilet paper chicken wings, yeah. I was able to get my steps in that day on my watch, so, 2 birds, 1 stone there. And Mr. Chavity mentioned, our Appreciation Week this week, our food service workers, bus drivers, monitors, and of course our teachers. We appreciate you every day for what you do for our students, so thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Schaefer?
Okay, I wrote mine out because I'm not good at remembering that kind of stuff. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week, and I'd like to share a short story that many of us have probably already heard, but I think the content is good enough to hear again. It's the starfish story. One day a man was walking along the beach when he noticed a boy picking up and gently throwing things into the ocean. Approaching the boy, he asked, "Young man, what are you doing?" The boy replied, "Throwing starfish back into the ocean. Their surf is up, the tide is going out. If I don't throw them back, they'll die." The man laughed to himself and said, "Do you realize there are miles and miles and miles of beach and hundreds of starfish? You surely can't make any difference." After listening politely, the boy bent down, picked up another starfish and threw it into the surf, and then smiling at the man, he said, "I made a difference to that one." Teachers, thank you for making a difference to our students one by one. It may seem like a job that's too big or overwhelming. There may be times that you question if you're making a difference. I assure you that you are making a difference. Please keep encouraging our youth and pointing them in the way of knowledge, skill, and kindness. There will always be those that question how or why you do it. Please know that we see what you're doing and thank you. Thank you for throwing starfish in by one and making a difference.
I'm gonna embarrass Mrs. Schaefer too, because, Teacher Appreciation Week, our parent support organizations are so often the ones that really step up and do so much, but, as we know, Preston doesn't have one, so Mrs. Schaefer took it upon herself to help out and go out and get some donations so that Preston staff, could get a little bit of appreciation this week, so. Embarrassing her, but I think that's worth recognizing that, you put those words to action to make sure that all of our staff felt some appreciation. Ms. White?
Well, the art walk was wonderful. I also attended the Bullock band concert, or Roberts band concert, and the Bullock band, I didn't get to Bullock's, but Roberts, they were very good. And I also went to the high school band concert. And I just wanted to say that when you go to the younger ones and you progress up, oh my gosh, what a difference that it makes. But you can see how hard those little ones work, and then how they end up like when they're juniors or seniors. It's just amazing. And I want to take a moment to shout out to a special senior who was in the Gold Tones that performed a wonderful solo, Isfahan by Duke Ellington. It was amazing, and I think it stole the show. I guess I'm a little prejudiced because it was my granddaughter, but it was amazing. It was amazing. I'd also like to thank our teachers. I think they know how I feel about them, our principals, our secretaries, our staff, everyone. You do an amazing job every day, and we really can't thank you enough. I want to thank our community for passing the levy, and I just want to do kind of a shout out to Mr. Fry over there. Everywhere I go, you are. I don't know that you get recognition or thanked, but I want to thank you and your team of students. You're always there for us at every function that we have, and it's just appreciated. I just wanted to make sure you knew that we thank you. And of course, I have an article. No, I can't help myself. This one was found in the Cap'n, Building a Caring Climate that Promotes Belonging and Engagement. We know that when students find meaning in what they are studying, when they're not just working for the sake of a grade or to check off an assignment on a to-do list, they are more likely to be academically successful. We also know that all students need to feel cared for and respected to thrive in school. So how can we as educators truly engage our students in work that they find meaningful and valuable? How can we make school a place where students feel valued, connected, and included? We have known for years that social, emotional, and cognitive processing are all neurologically intertwined. When students of all ages and stages feel they belong to a community, they are more likely to thrive. We find that cognitive engagement in particular accounts for a significant amount of the correlation between belonging and engagement. So what can we do? We can value student ideas and promote student agency. Ask students to weigh in on assignments and ways that they could be improved, or classroom policies and practices. Create a climate of mutual respect. And I think this goes straight to our resolution as well. And this is where students need to know that their opinions will be respected, even when they differ from those of their teachers or peers. A climate of trust and care will help when conflicts do arise, and certain practices such as restorative justice and peacemaking circles offer structured ways to engage in dialogue and resolve problems. Design lessons that are meaningful for students and deepen their understanding. Be sure that every assignment has a clear purpose, and clarify that purpose for students by showing them how the skills they are learning can be immediately applied outside the classroom. Try to connect activities and lessons to students' backgrounds, interests, and prior knowledge, and when possible, encourage them to engage in authentic projects and with real-world implications. Use grading practices that students perceive as fair and supportive. Encouraging students to revise and try again sends a message to students that their performance in one particular moment isn't a reflection of their intellect. Lose the gotcha in assessments. Individual competition and rankings based on grades can undermine students' sense of belonging and reduce their motivation. Assessments that are designed not to rank or sort students, but rather to measure what they know and are able to do can build students' sense of competency, which fosters motivation and engagement. Creating a culture where belonging and engagement and learning are foundational is a win for all of us, students and educators alike.
Thank you. Item J, adjournment. Motion to adjourn. It's recommended the Board of Education adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Gomez?
Aye.
Mr. Harris?
Aye.
Mrs. Schaefer? Aye. Ms. White?
Aye.
It's the longest one.